And welcome everybody to a new episode of Gamers Against the System. Sorry about the little bit of a wait from the last episode. Anyways, let me remove that. And of course, welcome everyone. I am of course your host, Chase Kitsuragi 2back, and of course, to the left of me is our good friend Richard Daku Cox.
This time on Dragon Ball Z, we talk about video games for 40 episodes before the next game.
Jesus. No, we're not going to do that. Anyways, as always, guys, welcome to Gamers Against the System. This week, we have actually pretty...
This week?
Did I say this week? I don't know. This week? I think I haven't said this week enough. Anyways, we got a nice little episode planned out for you guys today. We're going to go ahead and talk about some betas and some updates for some games.
Fish?
Not those kind of betas. Not those kind of betas. We're not talking about fish. Why would we talk about fish on a gaming show?
Well, technically they're both weak and break a lot, so die easily.
Hey, you know what? Betas are a lot better built nowadays than they were 10 years ago.
They're not alphas.
Yeah. Well, alphas are the fun ones. Alphas are when you get to break the system. When you're allowed to break the system.
But you don't even try. You just hit start and breaks the system.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes you can get like 3 steps in before you break the entire game.
Maybe I'm just lucky. Whenever I've played a beta, I've never had it crash. I've never had any issues. It's really just... It was like the full game, just I only got a limited amount of time to play it.
And then your characters get wiped. So, anyways, before we go into everything we're talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about how closed betas work and everything and how they affect the entire industry in a whole. Pretty much, what do you think is great about closed betas? What do you think what good comes from it?
In general, or as compared to an open beta?
In general at first, and then compared to an open beta.
From all the previous games that have failed miserably, just from I want to say feedback. There's lots of things that could have pissed people off that, developers just didn't realize it was that bad until people played it. I'd rather have a small group of people find that out than the entire world after they bought the game.
Okay.
For example, I don't remember the name of the game. There was a long time ago. I don't remember the company either. Made a game that was kind of like Age of Empires, and I want to say this was Blizzard. It was a really long time ago. They made a game on a CD. They released it. When you played the tutorial, it told you to aim and shoot an enemy. You shot it, it said, no, don't shoot your ally, shoot your enemy. If you shot your ally, nothing happened. So literally the tutorial for the game was broken. You could not play the rest of the game. After that, obviously people would uninstall it because they don't need it. After they uninstall it, it wipes their C drive. So, had you had a beta to figure out that first very simple problem, they wouldn't have had to recall and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales. I mean, usually that's not as much of a problem nowadays, but you get the gist of it.
All right.
Actual people play it for free, which means you don't have to pay your employees to do it. Then you're more likely to find something. It's like if you're staring at the same wall and then you get someone else to do it, they're the ones that are going to notice something.
Well, and for this standpoint, closed betas, when it's released to the public as a closed beta, it's always good for the feedback. They're always going to get that general feedback. It's a lot more common nowadays with a lot of online, with almost every game being online play and a lot of MMOs. Back in the day, when you didn't have to that much online, it, it was up to the quality testers to find everything, and it's
Pretty
not an
much.
easy job. I mean, people think, oh, you get to sit around and play video games all day. And yeah, you get to sit around and play video games all day, but you get to test the same level 600 times to find every fucking bug. It gets boring after a while, and some of them get kind of lazy and try and find major bugs. And
You gotta purposely jump on things, run into walls.
you purposely have to break the game. I think that's my favorite part about beta testing is you get to purposely break the game.
A good way to explain it is you have to try to escape the game. That's what you're trying to do. It's like you're stuck in a game and you're trying to shoot your way out of it. Crawl through it, jump through the ceiling, stuff like that.
Hey, Bourbon, and we are doing pretty fine, thank you. And good, good of you to swing by today. Thank you. Um, so comparatively to an open beta, so I always felt this: closed betas are let's see what we can do to break the game for the players. Let's get the feedback from players. Get let's get something substantial. When you go into an open beta with big games, a couple of games we're going to be talking about, Blade and Soul and Devilian, when you do an open beta, those are more for server stress. How much can we push the server? How stressed out can we get it to crash? That's what open betas are usually meant for. When it comes to those, other games, was it like Halo 5? Because that's technically an open beta. It's technically a closed beta at the same time when that was coming out. It was the multiplayer. They were testing balances, things like that, but they were also stress testing their servers. So, I mean, it's a good thing. It helps them get feedback. It gets live feedback. That's the biggest thing about anything. And, for us players, we get to enjoy the game a little bit earlier, get to play around with it. Sucks that our characters get wiped, everything gets reset, but we get some pretty good first-hand experience, even though things tend to change from beta to full release sometimes. So,
I'm about the same on it. The as far as a closed beta goes, I think you get a lot more specific feedback. Depending on what you're doing for the closed beta, whether it's invite only, things like that. If you invite only, you're more likely to get people who want to play the game and help versus an open beta where you have a bunch of people who just want to play the game early. They don't really care about finding bugs and things like that. You're not going to get helpful feedback from them. It's just people who want to play the game and do shit. That's it.
anyway.
A open beta, I believe, again, server testing, but you're more likely to find things like glitches, stuff like that, people cheating to win a game, bugs, but also the way I look at it visually, if you fill a cutter with a little bit of water, that's great. If you fill it to the top, you're going to find a lot more holes. So if you got a flood of people coming in, you're going to notice a lot. Not just server stress, but you're going to notice issues very frequently.
Well, but I mean, server stress is a major issue, anyways, because let's look at Diablo 3's release,
I
and
think
this
they'd have that down by now.
you never do. I mean, look at Diablo 3's release. This is like the best way of putting it. You look at Diablo 3's release. They didn't stress their servers. They didn't test how much stress the servers had. When they released it, people flooded in, and it crashed the servers. It was dead servers for almost 3 days.
I got it 2 days late, so I didn't have to worry about it. But 3 of my friends waited 6 hours, I think, to log in for the first time.
Yep, the server stress was so bad, and they never tested it. They never wanted to see how much their servers could do. And a lot of, I mean, about that time too, you look at like, what is it? Star Wars: The Old Republic had that same kind of issue when it launched. Even though they did do a server stress, they didn't do a very good one because they only had an open beta for or very limited time and didn't get it out to the people in time. So they didn't really get to server stress the game. So that's always a big thing. Hey, what is your definition of an alpha and a beta? So for the definition I go by with an alpha and a beta, an alpha is in a playable state where it is probably easily breakable. And for that, so for an alpha, let's pay into um, let's pay in something simple for that definition. So for the development time for an alpha, you would say let's go with Call of Duty. Call of Duty is an 18-month game. It takes 18 months to produce the game, get it through beta to release to the mass. So alpha is the technical term for alpha is up to a 75% completed game where you can test the game fully in that 75%. So that means there's going to be graphical glitches that are going to be there because certain parts aren't designed. But as long as the game's fully playable, you can test out certain things that are already there. Backgrounds might not work correctly, things like that. So those are going to be known issues that people are going to see. For a game like Call of Duty, it's up to 12 months. So the first year is full development. After that, they go into an alpha step. And they're testing out certain things in the alpha and going back and forth. And that's actually more of a pre-alpha. Their actual alpha really starts at 15 months. So it's a 3-month development in alpha, and then they go into beta, which is another 3 months, which brings them to the 21-month mark, and then they start doing the producing and the final touches. Alpha is always a lot more unstable. It is very easily broken, and it's purposely when companies do release alphas for people to play, they usually want to see what players are going to do to break the game. They want to see the game break so they know what they're looking for. Because there's things, like Doc said, there's things when you play a game over and over and over again, you're going to miss something. And that's why you have multiple steps in alphas. Because you always have a pre-alpha, you have an alpha, and then you go into betas. And beta is always as clean and as nice of a product as possible, knowing that there's going to be bugs, and all you're doing is searching out bugs for that. In the terms of MMOs, it's really more. I know it's really hard to say with MMOs. Certain MMOs, they're in an alpha up until six months before release, and then they go into a beta because the game's been there for a while. 14's a big example because technically 1.0 was an alpha. It was a 1.5 year long alpha, and then they pulled the servers down. It was a horrible thing. Every game's development cycle is always going to be different, and where their alpha starts and where their beta starts is always going to change depending on the game and the type of game it is. Because you look at something like, I don't know, Mario. You can produce a Mario game a year using one engine. You're never gonna have to. Your alpha is making sure certain stages work correctly, that the pitfalls are there, and not in random other places. Where the beta is making sure every flagpole works correctly because something gets missed there or there's a random glitch. You can't really. It's really hard to say, and with the day and age we live in now for games, you can consider almost anything technically in its beta because there's always going to be fixes coming.
I think a short description I would do, which I'll have a visual for too. I believe an alpha would be you've put the whole game together. Maybe you don't have all your ideas in there, but the game is ready to start, but you haven't turned it on yet. So literally, you made the game. You've got the actions, the codes, the graphics. Now you're about to put it in for the first time. You're about to hit play. That I believe is the alpha, because you haven't tested anything you've done. You've put it together as a game. It's ready to go out. Hopefully, it starts. If it does, that's when you start going through. Maybe there's some textures missing here and there. Oops, I spelled something wrong. Now that command doesn't work. Things like that. This is where you're, I'll say, grinding down the block of wood. Now you're sanding it off, into its shape, what it's supposed to be. You go into beta, that's when you start polishing it. So you've got to make the shape first. You put the game, you got the idea together. Now you're playing it. Fix all the bugs. Oh shit, I missed texture. That looks really bad. I shouldn't have done that. There was a game recently, which I can't remember. It was a Sonic game where they accidentally named a person Boob instead of Boo.
Sonic
That should
Boom.
have been that should have been tested and found, but it wasn't. Things like that are in the alpha. The beta, there's a lot less likely. It's a lot less likelihood that you're gonna find things like that, but there are still some issues that haven't been found, which is why in open beta you're more likely to find a lot of issues. Closed beta, you're gonna find the bad ones.
The major bad ones, the open beta, you're gonna find
All those little itty
the
bitty ones.
the mini ones. But I mean, and like I said, that's why nowadays it's more like we're still playing betas almost. We're getting complete games, but we're getting betas. That's why there's games that when you get it, and there was this argument about it, and this is how it goes: is when we get games and then you put it in your system and there's a day one patch because you bought a disc. The reason being is because they found something in the 3 weeks between finished production and it getting to the consumer's hands. So there is a time period after they finish that there is, they're still working on the game, but they can't put that on the disc anymore because it's already being processed. They've already sent out that code. So they're just looking through everything else. They're finding extra things that they didn't notice. That's why day one patches are always there nowadays.
If you think about it, literally everything is beta now. There's no such thing as a finished game. It's really a gray area. If you're Destiny, for example, you play the beta, there's a patch, now you're playing Destiny. Now more patches, you keep finding more bugs. You're never not in beta. It's always a beta. I mean, it's getting less and less and less, but there's always a patch, there's always a bug, there's an issue here, there's an issue there. It is never finished, which is ironic because people say, there's DLC. You never buy a finished game. But you could, which may be an unpopular argument, say you paid for the game and they're always fixing it for you. Oops, you missed something. If it was an original game, no internet connection, sorry, you're stuck with that issue. Good luck. But now they're fixing it constantly, adding more things, adding more features. Yes, the DLC is extra, but
yeah. See, for me, I view it as this: most any game we get now on a console is going to be somewhat of video game.
If you look up the definition of an alpha, it's very vague.
It is.
Will have a different. I mean, if you were in a class, that was probably more of your teacher's definition than an actual term. I've talked to a few people who are doing game development, and I've done game development myself. As far as alphas go, it's just different. I mean, in general, it's not a finished game. Like the Destiny beta, it looked like a finished game. If it's an alpha, my personal definition, it's not gonna look finished. Like I could run around with a gun, but there could be a hole in a wall that just shows no image or something similar to that.
Yeah.
But it's really gonna be personal preference. Regardless. There is no
it's always
of an alpha.
Yeah, it's always gonna fall under, for the sake of argument. It's always gonna fall under the developer. what they consider an alpha, what they consider a beta. For me, like I said, 75% of the game complete where you can finish the game even if all the textures aren't there, that's alpha. Because you're going to find when you're playing the game, if not all the textures are there, you know there's going to be certain parts where you're like, you fall through and you're going to go, oh, hey, look, that wasn't placed incorrectly. Even though you can see the floor, it wasn't placed in as a solid ground correctly.
What's
Certain
really
things like that.
interesting is some people don't even go based off of things like that. It's just simply time. For example, you have an 18-month development for a game. I'm just saying random months here. Maybe 12 months in, you're now in alpha. It doesn't matter what the game looks like. That's just alpha stage because that's what they say it is after that amount of time.
Yeah, it's all based off the companies and the developers and the publishers, what they consider an alpha to be, what they consider beta to be. And everyone's is going to be different. I know when I was in school, when I was doing game development, my alphas were like the game had to be like 90% completed to be considered in alpha stage, which is not how I worked. When I
We'll see.
did my
That's
internship, it was like 75% done and you were in alpha. It's
what
always based off
is
of whatever your whatever your professor or your boss's definition, what they want to go by. It's a simple thing like that. So
well, what is 90% done? Because you never really know. I mean, in general, you could have a project board of this is my 90% point, but even if you finish at 100%, there could be something you entirely missed.
90% is completion of storyboard and graphical achievement inside the game that you are releasing. That is what is considered to be a finished product. A game, Destiny, for example, it trying to be an MMO, any MMO is up to patch X. So patch 1.0, the initial launch of a game. It doesn't matter what assets you're going to be putting in later for an MMO. What you're supposed to be releasing for a base game, 90 is your 100% mark. Whenever you're releasing a game, what is supposed to be released at that point is your 100% mark. And that's how companies view that. Your marking is start to finish of the storyboard and developments or graphical developments, things like that. And honestly, there are times that I've got a cat. A game doesn't get to that point. There are games that get released prior to or go right into alpha due to time because they have a set amount of time for development. You can't deal with that. You just have to go with it and hope you can fix it later. Destiny is a really prime example of they had everything, certain things went wrong, shit went south, and now they're in the, they got that shit bucket that was Destiny 1.0, which wasn't a bad game, just wasn't what was promised due to unfortunate circumstances, people leaving, them not having everything 100%. So they released something that they could release at that time. And that's what they had to consider their finish mark, their 100% mark, even though their original target goal was a lot more. Due to certain circumstances, it fell back, and that's something you can't judge. You can't base anything on. You have to go with it. You always put up, hey, this is the 100%. This is where the start is. This is where the end is for the game. That's what we're calling the 100% mark, and you don't know what's going to happen between in that space. You don't know if you're going to lose a programmer due to a maternity leave or paternity leave. You don't know if people are going to get fired. You don't know if people are going to leave. You can't judge on that. You have to just go, this is what we want. This is what we need to go by. Oh, we only have 48 months to develop the game. Well, let's do it. And sometimes you just get a bad roll. And
I've
you
been
get shit
told
on.
that some companies, just because the way it worked, they ran out of money to pay their developers, so it's just, hey, if we're gonna release this game, I need you to work for free for the next couple months.
Yeah, well, and there's some
It's like
there's some
that's how we
companies like
operate.
that. There's some companies that, hey, you're gonna have to work for free because we ran out of money. There's other companies that have, and I'm not gonna name the companies, but there have been companies that they ran out of money, so they're like, finish finish what it is, send it out. We have to make something from this, and it's just how that is. That's in a perfect world, you'd always get a completed game, and with the DLC now, every DLC would be worthwhile. That's in a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world, and game development will never be 100% precise on everything because you can't judge anything. I mean, there's been companies that, I mean, even Blizzard, for crying out loud, had a power outage at one point in time on development of one of their games, and they couldn't push it back. Could game be considered done is finally abandoned old because it's the same when an old game like a PS2 or older game is released because yeah, that's when you would consider game done. Um, I mean, you can pull up anything pre using internet to download patches, everything. I mean, original Xbox, PS2, from that era before and before that, don't count and that includes Dreamcast and everything. Yeah, you can consider games in that sense done. They once it was released, that was it. That it was their finished and completed product. If it was 100% done, maybe no. Well, shit, you're out of luck. You have to go with it. That's the unfortunate. That was the big issue with back then. Your development cycle, you had to take it up until the last possible moment to produce a game and release it and hope everything was fixed. And if it wasn't, you're out of luck because it's going to be in their hands. And if they don't like it, you're out money.
See, at the same time, I kind of don't like that either, because with the fact that we can patch games later on, that could be something in the developers where it's just like, oh, we can fix that later, because we can just put it in a patch.
Yeah,
We'll cut something else. We'll slack a little bit.
yeah, and that's an unfortunate part with industry nowadays is, oh well, we can patch that later.
I believe they worked harder back then,
They did.
because
They
once
had
they
to.
released the game, that was it.
Yeah, they were running
They had to
off
make it work.
pure faith, going, "Oh God, please let us hope we found everything. Please let us hope we found everything. Please let there not be any game breaking glitches." They had to hope and pray on that stuff. Nowadays, it's, oh, we missed that. I guess we can go patch that.
Do you remember Donkey Kong 64?
Oh yeah,
What happened with that?
oh yeah, that was a horrible thing that happened, and yeah, you always
For you
when
people who don't know, Donkey Kong 64 had an error that could not be fixed. They could not find it, and they were running out of time. So they released that little red thing that goes in for the front of the N64 with it for free, which cost them a ton of money, because it was the only way the game would work, is if that was in the system when you played it.
yep, because it was the only way to fix or essentially patch the game to work correctly.
They
Um,
lost so much money on that.
they did, but now comes down to the entire thing of nowadays. Oh, you got a cupcake. Watch out, he's got cupcakes.
Yeah.
Um, Nowadays, to me, the only games that are truly ever finished and done to completion when you get it in your hands are MMOs. And the reason being is, yes, there's going to be patches, but they're going to be content patches. They're not going to be, oh shit, we didn't get this patches. There's going to be things that you miss, and they're going to patch those in anyways. But when the game is released and you get it in your hands, you have everything there because you don't have a choice. You have to download the game. So it's the only game that technically is finished when released. And then later on you get the patches, you get extra patches, you get, you know, Final Fantasy, you get patch, or you get the expansion Heaven's Ward, and you get patch 3.1 soon. You know that's a content patch. There's going to be some fixes that they need to do, because when you alter a game like that, there's always going to be issues. But at least you know the base game is completed, and you're just waiting for that.
That's another one I like. Any game that has a campaign that is not based on multiplayer, like Titanfall, for example. That was literally just multiplayer. That was the
Yep.
dumbest shit in the world. But for example, Halo 1, it was a campaign and there was multiplayer. So literally everything was based off the campaign. So you knew the game was finished, and then they made secondary stuff. Same with the Call of Duties. You know, they have a campaign and then they have multiplayer. You got to have everything ready for the campaign. That's the stuff they're using in multiplayer.
Yep. So yeah, that's what that all comes down to. But enough talk about all that. Let's get into some of the stuff we are going to be talking about. Speaking of betas. No, you didn't derail anything. We're going to talk about this anyway. So I even put down in our show notes. Add any other comments, and well, you brought up a pretty good comment and pretty valid thing there. So it was a decent question, and it was fun answering it as best as we could. Anyways, so we're gonna go ahead and start talking about some betas that I've been playing, and the first one we're talking about is, well, Booby laying behind me, even though you can't really see her boobs because my giant ass head's in the way. Um,
You have an ass head, haha.
yeah. So, and that is Blade and Soul. Blade and Soul. So, for anyone that doesn't know what Blade and Soul is, it is an action MMO that was released in Korea 2 years ago. And we're just now going to be getting it here in the US here soon. I can I can hear voices. I can hear voices.
Voices, huh?
Oh god, I'm losing it. So, a couple little facts. The game will be free to play when it comes out, and it is being released Q1 of 2016. Now, I've been having the glorious time of being able to play the beta, and I was in the alpha. But this is kind of a different take on everything, since the game's been out for 2 years. This one's kind of different. And do you want to know why, Daku?
Boobs.
No, not because of boobs. The reason why this one's different than most normal betas and alphas is because you're testing the language and translations.
So you're basically making sure they did a good job at making everything English related?
Yep. The game is, since the game was released in Korea originally and is a Korean MMO, the hardest part is translation. So you have to make sure all the translation's correct. You're looking at things. There have been a couple of things I've looked at and I went, that is probably not what they meant to say, because of how the wording is and whatnot. You have to find those. This is a different kind of beast when it comes to people who like playing betas and looking for things, is because you're not looking for graphical glitches now. You're looking for verbal and text-based glitches, and it is a completely different beast, and it is so fun. I tell you what. I'm hearing my voice again. What the hell?
My computer hates me, sorry.
Apparently.
There we go. Much better.
No one is but you is paying attention anyways. But, I mean, so, what do you think about that, of this, Daku?
I mean, it's Korea. They've perfected online gaming. That's pretty much it. So I'm pretty sure they really don't give a shit about the game mechanics, because it's been, you said, for like what, 2 years it's been out?
Yep, in Korea.
So I mean, there's really nothing to test. As long as it's just language and they didn't touch anything else, then Sure, why not? It's interesting because I feel like we're the weak ones here. It's not like we're beta testing and stuff. It's like, oh, here's our game. Just make sure it sounds right to you. Enjoy.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been having fun playing the game, and I'm just playing the game like, yeah, there's no graphical glitches, but I've come across a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I don't think they meant to say it that way. And of course, some of the text based, while it's supposed to be auto scrolling for text while they're speaking, doesn't fit correctly, and certain texts don't show up on the screen. That's going to be kind of a norm. I mean, even games we get here in America that are produced in America that you put subtitles on don't do that sometimes. So it's one of those things I'm like, okay, this is kind of
I wonder
cool.
though, how are they gonna do that? This character said something wrong, and you're gonna report it. I mean,
It,
there's a shitload of people in an MMO. I mean, how do you know who to talk about? Like NPC 432
well, all the
said
NPC
lovely
are
on out.
all the NPCs are named, so you just sit there and you send the report. This character, this NPC here at this time of the story, because you're going to be tracking the story anyways while you're doing this. You can send that in, but a lot of them are just text based, and some of the text based I found in the alpha, I went back in the beta and they're fixed. So, everyone's reporting when they see something is some sort of grammatical error in that sense. So another thing that I wanted to bring up about Blade and Soul is, have you ever played a Korean MMO, Daku?
Mm, gosh,
Maple Story. Have you played Maple Story?
I have played Maple Story.
You know how
That
long
was
it?
a long time ago. Jesus.
Do you remember how long it took to level up in the game? How much of a grind?
That's why I stopped playing. I just kept getting my ass kicked by people.
So, Blade and Soul is completely different. Blade and Soul feels like WoW or Final Fantasy 14 in the terms of leveling. You don't feel it's a grind, but it doesn't feel like a grind. You sit there and you're like, okay, blah blah, I'm getting this much experience, blah blah, this and that. It doesn't feel like you are grinding for hours for a level. I was talking to Panda about this, my wife, explaining to her how certain things went. So, I used to play Ragnarok online back in the day when it was, you had Final Fantasy 11, World of Warcraft, and Dark Age of Camelot, and EverQuest as your MMOs. So, I was playing Ragnarok. Well, I remember, got to level 5, I'm like, wow, this isn't too bad. And then the grind hit. 5 to 6. Took me 6 weeks to get one level. And I was playing the game for like 3-4 hours a day.
So I wouldn't have done that for that many weeks. I would have given up after like day 3 tops.
Yeah. Blade and Soul, though, it feels like more modern day MMOs. I kill something, it drops like 40 experience, takes 4,000 experience to level. Oh my god, I can kill 100 things and I can level. Oh wait, this quest is going to give me 400 experience. Okay, let me go do this next quest. Oh, that's going to give me 400. Oh, this story quest is going to give me 600. Oh look, I just leveled. It feels like a normal MMO. It doesn't feel like a grindy MMO, and that's what I thoroughly enjoy about the game. Is it doesn't feel like a Korean MMO where I'm grinding my fucking ass off just to reach one level. Now, granted, the end game I'm going to be grinding my ass off because it's end game content and trying to get the best gear to go do raids and everything. Yeah, that's just grindy.
So
Anyways,
that's why they're releasing it for Americans. It's because it's easier.
because it's not so grindy in the early game. It's grindy in the late game.
It's true. Some of their games are so hard. Most Americans don't want to play them.
And it's not that I don't mind creating MMOs. It's just the grind is real in those. And another thing, because we kind of clumped it in with that. And the ongoing joke with Blade and Soul, the name for the game, has been officially dubbed by quite a few streamers as boobs and soul because give me a second. Let me just do this. Let me turn off my camera. Look at those boobs.
I can't see. I'm still waiting for the delay.
Yeah. Look at those boobs. Look at them
About
when
30
they
seconds.
see. Look at those. It's all about boobs and soul. So a lot of the women in the game are wear very form-fitting outfits. Let's just say this. The game is a
There are the boobs.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The game is like I said, an action MMO. Third person, if you've ever played Terra, it plays like that where you have a certain amount of buttons, any combo skills together make them more effective and do a lot more damage. Rocket boobs. But the other thing about the game is it's very martial arts like. It's a very martial arty game. It's martial arts. There's magic users, so they use magic. But I mean, most of the classes are you have an assassin, you got a ninja essentially, you got a sword, the blade dancer, which is the very fancy move around. You have the blade master, which is kind of a tanky little thing. You have a destroyer who walks around with a huge axe, grabs people by their skull and flings them around like they're fucking ragdolls. You have the Kung Fu Master, which is fucking Kung Fu. You have the Summoner, which is another magic class. And then when the game gets released, we're going to get the Necromancer. But they didn't want to release the Necromancer in beta because, well, Necromancers aren't really good until level 50. And the cap right now in beta is 45. Because they don't want to spoil the end of the game for everyone.
What do you mean by the game is martial arts? I mean, is it World of Warcraft like, or is it more you're running around the field beating the crap out of people constantly, jumping, things like that?
Like an old Kung Fu movie where they float through the air and do martial arts moves and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what the game's like. I mean, hell, you don't even get mounts in the game. You literally, the game, you use deodorant, yeah. Okay.
Every day, bitch. Continue.
But the game is, no mount, so you don't get a fast travel of hopping on a mountain and riding a mount. No, you fucking sprint, you jump, and you're like, oh shit, that's a cliff. You jump, and you float through the air to your next destination. And, I mean, you get quick travels to jump between town and town, and then they have a special dragon winds or something. I can't remember what it's called right off the top of my head, where they're really cool, but they're like, typical martial arts movie, ridiculous, jumping off walls, bouncing, floating in the air at high speeds.
Guns the Duel, the international version.
Yeah.
I love fucking running on those walls, blocking bullets with swords and shit. It was the best fake shit I've ever played.
Best fake shit. But yeah,
You'd run across a wall perfectly straight. You wouldn't go like up and then down. It was just straight across the wall.
Oh yeah. No, but yeah, the game is it's fun, it's awesome. It doesn't feel like a Korean MMO, it feels like a normal MMO in my opinion, and it's been a blast and I can't wait for it to come out. It just sucks that we've got 4 more beta weekends till they do the character wipes and all that fun shit.
Hey, character wipes.
That's the only thing I hate about it, bless you, when I play betas, is character wipes. It's like I spend so much time and then you're gonna wipe my character. God damn it.
That's why I usually don't really play any betas. It's just like they're gonna reset it all anyways. The only one I played for like an hour was Tiv and multiplayer because I wanted to see how it worked.
Thanks, Bourbon. So the next...
Oh, great too, Bourbon, man.
The next MMO we're going to talk about is called Devilian. And yes, this is probably one of those games you look at it, you're like, what?
Devilion.
Devilian? No, it's Devilian. This is another Korean MMO, but it's played more like it's an action MMO, action RPG MMO,
We
but
hate
plays like
action games.
yeah, I know, but plays like Diablo. It's a top-down view,
I love Diablo.
but this one's a little bit different than Diablo in a sense. Bourbon, didn't you get the link that I sent you on Discord the other day? It was right there. You could have gotten a beta key. Um, but this one's different. So Diablo, you point, you click, that's where you go. Use the same clicking button to move to attack. Yeah, this one you can do that, or you can move around with ASWD.
I'm pretty sure you could do that in Diablo 3, from what I
Nope.
remember.
You cannot move around with ASWD on Diablo 3 unless completely changing your setup. For
Same thing.
this is programmed into the game general. You just
It's
normally
default.
yeah, it's default. You can move around with ASWD or with the mouse, and you can do a few things that way. And it's actually a really fun game. The only issue I have is it kind of falls under that Korean MMO trope.
The Nope game.
It takes a little bit to level up. Now, granted, the dungeons in the game and everything make leveling a little bit easier. A little bit easier. And if anyone's interested, there's a few keys left. There's going to be a few more beta weekends coming up. I just posted a link for the Devilian beta, so you can get into that and play around. There's 911 keys left, last time I checked. But the dungeons and everything kind of give you a boost in experience. But if you're going about just not worrying about the dungeons except for the times you have to do them, it's going to take you a while to level up, and the main story is going to actually leave you behind. If you're not paying attention, huh?
Nothing.
But it's one of those games that it does take some time. If you're not doing some dungeons and doing some of the extra stuff, you'll fall behind on the main story. You won't be able to do some of the main stories until you level up. Now, with that said, the amount of experience you get from dungeons is fucking ridiculous and makes the game so much better. And they did fix a couple of things that I was bitching about during beta weekend 1.
Specifically because you bitched about it?
No, it wasn't specifically because of me. It is specifically because a lot of people bitched about it. Like one of the dungeons being level 28, I walked in there as a level 36 and it was still kicking my ass. Because the damage output was way higher than my level. So they changed it to level 48. They changed it to level 48 because it was kicking people's asses.
It's like, you should be a little bit stronger before you go in there.
Yeah, well, you go in there at level 28 and you just get raffle stomped. You get raffle stomped into the ground. So, it's an interesting game. It's a fun game. It's a good Diablo clone, and it's nice to play if you're wanting Diablo, but you want something a little more interesting than Diablo. Because you do get a superpower in the game. You get to transform into a devil and kick the shit out of bosses. And out of each other, because the PvP in that game is fucking awesome.
Does everybody transform into devil, or is that just like character based?
Everyone transforms into a devil, but it's according to their class. So the Night Stalker, which uses essentially a kunai and chain for attack, when you go into your Devilian form, it's a dual dagger move, and you can teleport and stealth and backstab people.
So which wouldn't surprise me, if you're a female character, would you turn into the devil with massive tits?
No, but the wizard,
Hey, it's a
the
Korean
the
game.
the wizard, the spellcrafter. Yeah. Literally, if her Devilian form, she's got like a little piece of cloth that covers the crotch, and then some articles of clothing that come up and cup the boobs and cover the nipples. That's all she's wearing. Oh, and gloves and boots.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it's. I'm like, wow. Talk about revealing.
Do they get like massive, or is it just like same
They get
size? You
they
just put
get
on it.
you get bigger, a little bit bigger, and more powerful. Essentially, is what it is.
Hulk out.
You Hulk out. That's all it is. I mean, and like I said, it's an action MMO. It plays a lot like Diablo. You have a few more buttons, and you have the F keys for extra stuff. And you get character development trees where you can choose certain styles. I personally like playing the bastard that runs into the middle of a group, pulls them all in, stuns them, and blasts them down with AoEs with my Shadow Hunter because, fuck, that's awesome.
I'm always afraid of development. I'm always afraid of development trees because I feel like I'm gonna pick the wrong one. Like as soon as I find out a game has one, I have to research the whole thing to make sure that I pick the one I want.
Well, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. When you go down the tree, you see everything you're going to get, and and it gives you the description, so you can sit there and judge. No, that's not the tree I want to go down. I want to go down this tree because that's a little bit better. That's a little more my style. Um, but it's going to fall under that trope because it is an MMO. People are going to crunch the numbers, and there's going to be one tree that's always better than the rest. This tree's better for doing the raids. This tree's better for doing PvP. Even though that doesn't really matter because PvP everyone's Devilian, so it doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, there's someone's going to crunch numbers, and you're always going to have one thing better than the rest, and it's just because the damage output. This is going to do more damage than this, so this is the tree you go down. So, we'll see more when it comes out, and you get to play it more because they have not paid the raise or anything yet in the beta. So, but they have put in all the difficulties for dungeons, like Nightmare and Hell. Yeah, their difficulties are normal, Nightmare, and Hell.
That is exactly the same thing the way Diablo was.
But these are the dungeons, and the dungeons are fucking ridiculous. They're awesome, but it's like I looked at like Hell difficulty, and it's like, oh yeah, your recommended item level is 564. The fuck?
Is it kind of like the equivalent of a raid in Destiny?
Mm-hmm. Though I'm still waiting to see how the raids are going to play out in Devilian. It's an interesting thing. So that takes care of the betas that I've been part of. There is an alpha out for a game I want to play, and it's more of a sandbox MMO, and that is Black Desert. But I have not been lucky enough to get in yet. So,
Aww.
yeah.
Maybe if you get popular enough on the internet, you can start getting into all of them to advertise.
Who knows? Maybe. Probably not. I'm not going to be that popular anytime soon.
You're not that attractive.
I don't have tits, so.
True. Reminds me of a work story I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay. Alright, so let's go into the updates. So, this last week, we got information on one update and we got another update. Consoles got one update specifically, not the PC version of the game. And how's your download on that game going, by the way?
24%.
Figured. So we just got updated to patch 17.7.1 on Warframe. Or as it's being as it's called, as the patch is called the Jordas Precept. So if no one's ever played Warframe, or come by my channel when I play Warframe, or someone else's channel while they're playing Warframe, Warframe is essentially ninjas in space, and it's fucking awesome. I mean, it's fucking awesome. I don't know what more I can say about that. So the game, what
Nothing.
the fuck?
Every time I open a video, I just can't get the volume off in time. It doesn't work.
Ah,
I tried, okay? Did my best. Well, it probably wasn't my best, but I tried a little bit.
you tried a little bit. So the patch is, like I said, the Jordas Precept. It's 17.7.1. PCs have this update for about a month and a half, about a month now. And their their update is 17.9.2.
Race.
Now, and I've talked to people about this. The game's fun. A lot of people wish that it was cross-platform, but since they developed for the PC first, and they have to go through all the fun red tape of putting the updates on the systems,
Yep.
it takes a little bit longer because they have to go through all the red tape and bullshit and stupid shenanigans, and it's fucking annoying. So yeah, the PC version of Warframe is always going to be a little bit ahead of the console versions. With that said, either one when you play, the game's fucking awesome. So this last patch, or this latest update, the Jordas Precept introduced a new Warframe called Atlas. Yes, it's named Atlas. And it uses earth powers to fucking smash people with rocks and summon golems, and it's fucking awesome. But the game's always been about, it's essentially another MMO. It's almost, if you look at it and Destiny, you would actually think them the same in a sense. You still get you get the Milky Way. Well, you get our solar system. You get Sol solar system. There was a great war. Your character disappeared and comes back hundreds of years later. Shit's going down. Things aren't working right. People are fighting again. But overall, I mean, when the game came out, it was almost in the sense like Destiny. It was flushed out, but it wasn't 100%. But at this time, they only had like 6 Warframes when the game came out, and they didn't even have a Prime Warframes, which is a completely different beast in itself.
It can't play it yet, but it's letting me open it. And looking at some of the stuff, it looks a lot like Destiny. Even looking at one of these, I'll call it a bad guy here. It looks like a lot like one of the Hive.
Yeah, they have the enemies in the game are called the Grineer, the Corpus, the Infested, and then the Orokin. And the Orokin are just copies of the first 3, just like corrupted in gold. So there's three main villainous races. The 4th one's kind of for farming stuff, and that's the Orokin Void, or as you'll find out in the game, it's called Towers.
So is your Warframe like your armor?
Your Warframe is the armor you wear that gives you the abilities. So, like I said, Atlas, which is the newest Warframe, is an Earth-based Warframe. He's a little slow, has some armor, uses Earth-based attacks for his powers. So one of them, he puts up a wall right in front of him, a wall of earth that he can push and hit people. He's got
Oh, like
another
Avatar.
yeah, he's got another ability where he can just petrify an enemy completely. And his ultimate is he summons 2 rock golems that will help him fight. There's other ones. There's like Hydroid, which is a water element based warframe. And the great thing about the game is you're not when you choose one warframe, you're not stuck with that warframe. You can go out, after you get so far in the game, you can go out, start farming parts for other warframes, buying their blueprints off the market and going. Or, because it is free to play, you can always use the cash shop. Which brings me to the point for this, and it kind of ties in with Devilian and Blade and Soul since they're all free to play. But primarily with Warframe, because I get this a lot whenever I stream it, someone always says it. Is it pay to win?
Is it PvP?
There is PvP, but you can buy weapons and you can buy warframes. They're still rank 0. They're not leveled at all, so you have to still level them. You can only use certain weapons and certain warframes in PvP. And if you want the primes, you're either trading people platinum, which is the premium currency,
Yeah.
or you're farming it. So it comes down to, is it really a pay to win game? Because you still have to know the skill. You still have to have the skill. You're not being blessed with like stupid, ridiculous weapons.
I can't see that being pay to win because if you do your research before you start, you'll pick the warframe you know you're going to be good with. And then if you didn't pick that warframe, I mean, fuck, who gives a shit? Start a new character with a new warframe. Erase your save. I don't.
Well, see, and again, when you start, you're only going to get 3 warframes to pick from, and it's going to be Volt, Excalibur, and Mag. Mag is very control based, so low defense, uses control, you're controlling enemy shields, you're weakening them, you're holding them in place, making them easier for you to hit. You're doing anything to sustain less damage, but you have the ability to recharge your shields if you do take damage. Volt is the high speed attack type. More defense than Mag, but is high speed, so it moves faster, has the ability to increase its speed for a short period of time, has the ability to stun so it can go in, get quick kills, and has the ability to blast things away from it and stun them. Also has the ability to put up a shield. So it can just stand in a straight up fight and have a shield in front of it, and it can shoot through the shield, but they can't hit him. And then you have Excalibur, which is the most balanced of the 3. Best for beginners, because it's the most balanced and it's technically the first warframe that was placed for the game. Very simple, has the ability to do a quick high damage attack. It makes a energy blade and can shoot energy waves out and do massive damage at the cost of constantly losing its energy. Has the ability to blind their enemies, and has the ability to, what's the third ability or fourth ability? God, I can't remember what the fourth ability on Ash is.
I mean, so
or
basically,
Excalibur.
when you see somebody using Excalibur to kick your ass in PvP, that's proof that the game is not pay to win.
Yeah.
They're using a simple starter frame and beating everybody with it.
And like I said, there's only so many warframes that you can have that will go into PvP. PvP actually has it very balanced. So when you go into PvP, you are set to your base health and shields. You don't get any mods that increase your health or shields because they have to be conclave or PvP based mods. The weapons don't get all their damage upgrades and all that stuff because you have to have PvP based mods. And certain warframes aren't allowed. There's a warframe that has the ability to disappear and stay invisible for 30 seconds.
That's a lot of time to kick a lot of ass.
But it's not allowed in PvP. It is not selectable. The other one that can go invisible can only go invisible for 7 seconds at most. And it's a lot easier to see that one than the other one. Not to mention, your energy, your ability to use the resource to use abilities is very limited. So you have to be smart about it. Because once you use it, even when you die, it doesn't come back. So you can blow your load really early on, but then you're fucked for the rest of the match. So the game is balanced in itself on what you can do. And how I say it, it's pay for convenience. You can farm something, or you can spend the platinum and trade someone for the parts for a prime warframe or prime weapons, which are usable, but they're not going to be. They're going to be slightly better, just slightly better than its base counterparts.
So it's not really pay to win at all. It's pay to save a little bit of farming, and that's it.
Yeah, it's pay for convenience. I mean, even when you're creating stuff, you can spin platinum to speed it up and it be done instantaneously. Or you can wait the time. Like Warframes usually take 3 days to build. Once you have assembled all the parts, built all the parts, and put all the parts into the Warframe blueprint, it takes 3 days to build. Not bad.
Go on
Takes some
vacation
time,
for
but
3 days.
yeah, you don't
Go
have to worry
outside,
about
get
it.
some sun.
But even then, while you're playing you can play the game and do stuff while waiting for it. Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah. So for Excalibur, you get dash between enemies while slashing with an exalted blade, which is massive damage. But it's only a short area, and you have to keep on using it, so it's draining energy. Radial Blind, which blinds all your enemies. Radial Javelin, which launches javelins towards enemies, dealing high damage and impaling them to walls. You're never going to use that in PvP because half the time you're going to miss with it.
It is Dungeon Defenders 2 that is cross-platforming, Bourbon.
It was Dungeon Defenders 2. Warframe is not cross-platform, unfortunately. It's either you're on PC and you're playing with PC players, you're on Xbox One playing with Xbox One players, or you're on PS4 playing with PS4 players.
A little off track, but I mean, as far as cross-platforming goes, you think with virtual reality coming out and becoming hopefully popular, there's going to be the PlayStation version coming out, the Oculus Rift. I mean, do you think they'll be cross-platform?
That's gonna be interesting because again comes into that development thing and certain games having to take longer than others to get onto certain things. I see. I mean, even now it's that boundary starting to come a little blurry. So I'm hoping it probably won't be within the next 5 years. Probably in the next 10 years, we're gonna see a lot
I
more
think there's a
cross
lot of
everything.
people getting into virtual reality, but it's way too late. Oculus Rift and PlayStation's one, that's the only popular ones I'm seeing. People are trying to get into it, but the Oculus Rift is way ahead of the game. The only one that comes anywhere close would be the HoloLens, but that's not a full virtual reality game. That's more holograms than anything else.
Yeah, and I foresee it starting to become more popular and more apparent, and start seeing more games using it and be cross-platform in that sense. But that line's gotta go away. I mean, we were just talking about this in pre-show about Final Fantasy 14 and how you'll probably never get Final Fantasy 14 as long as Microsoft sits there and says, no, we don't want them playing with PC players or PS4 players. And Square Enix is going to be Yoshi P is going to sit there and go, well, then you just don't get the game. That's what he's
You
been
know,
saying to them, and
that's
that's
already a lie because Microsoft is cross-platform,
it's
which
cross-platform,
they
but
didn't realize they are. You can play a game. I mean, you can play Xbox on PC now, which is really just more of a video feed.
mm-hmm.
But because your new system, you can make an application, and it works on the computer, it works on your phone, and it works on your Xbox and your tablet.
But
So when
it
it comes to
comes
the whole, oh, maybe there's a pixel difference, or it's harder to play on this one versus that one, that's no longer what because clearly I can play a game on my tablet and then go back to my computer on it. So if I were to play a PlayStation, it'd actually be more evenly matched than playing on my cell phone versus my Xbox.
yeah,
So there should
and
be no reason
there
that
there should be
Microsoft
there should be
doesn't.
a reason, but it's an old trope. It's something that the game industry has ingrained into themselves. Certain things should never be cross-platform. Certain companies should never be able to play together, which I think is a bad thing. That's all you're doing is you're blocking off players from wanting to get your system to play it on your system. They're gonna go and they're gonna find another way of playing it and play with their friends. Honestly, I think Microsoft just needs to get their head out of their ass just at least for 14, because then they'll have 14 on there, and that's a huge. I mean, that's a huge revenue for them.
The
It's a
problem
huge
is,
revenue for Square Enix, but it's a huge revenue for them, and it can easily be done. I mean, it works fine between PS4 and PC.
see, no one cares enough though. If you were to start a petition right now, you wouldn't get that many signatures. If half the gaming industry complained about it, I guarantee you we get cross-platform really quick.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt about that, but sometimes a trickle can be all it takes, but Microsoft has to they have to want to do it. That's the hard part. And there's, I'm not going to sit there and call Sony the fucking patron saint, because they did the same thing a while back with another game that they didn't want it to be cross-platform, and it was being talked about being cross-platform. Fuck, even Destiny did it, and it was the stupidest fucking excuse ever.
Was Destiny the pixel difference thing?
Destiny was the pixel difference between PS or not being able to play between the older generations and the current generations of the same console. I understand, that cross-platform. That one's a little bit harder because no one really wanted that, because everyone's fucking Sony and Xbox and Microsoft fans just like butting each other's heads, and fucking PC players just sit there and go, what the fuck are you guys bitching about? Go back to your rooms.
The only thing I can understand maybe is like Xbox and Xbox One bullshit. But like as far as Destiny on PlayStation versus Xbox, the controller difference could be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, and that's
Because
why
even
that's what I
Sony
think.
admit that Xbox's controller was better than theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, if if your competition says you're better as far as a controller goes, then that's something huge. If you're going to be playing games on the same game together,
Yeah, and
that's a huge
that one,
advantage.
and like I said, that one I'm not too worried about. I was like, okay, whatever. But the fact that I couldn't, I have friends that have a PS3 that wouldn't be able to play with me on my PS4
Yeah.
because of their fucking stupid. Well, if you're on if you are on this system, it's you see everything as 2 pixels, but this system's 4 pixels. So there's this disadvantage. I'm like, you can't use that fucking excuse in this day and age when everything. I mean, fuck. Looking at, and this is the best game to show example, God of War 3 and God of War 3 remastered. God of War 3 remastered did look prettier. There was more lighting, certain things like that. because they could do a little bit more. But the game did not look that much different. That's what it is. That's all it is.
I think
Yeah,
that's just insane.
yeah, Bourbon. Most people can't tell the difference between 30 and 60 frames. Fuck, I mean, if you really wanted to go in that technical aspect, you know, Nintendo's been saying that they want to do a cross-platform, or they've been trying to do a cross-platform with Dragon Quest X over in Japan with PS4 users because it's on Xbox or the Wii U and PS4. But technically, most of the Wii U games run at 72 frames per second. Most of them do because that's how the games are developed. They were developed to run at the highest frame rate possible that the human eye can see. I mean, hell, I always laugh at people that can sit there and go, well, my system can go up to 120 frames per second. I'm like, that's cool. You're not seeing a difference after 72.
Yeah, technically most people don't see above like 30, which is why scientifically people see at 25 frames per second, which is why 30 looks like a motion picture. But there are little spots here and there which mess up, which is why 60 frames per second looks amazing because you're missing not a single frame that's in there. But I
And
mean, anything
72
above
is the
that, it's just
72 is the fastest the normal human eye can see, because that is 3 times the amount that our eyes can register. So after that, you're just that's essentially seizure inducing. You can cause brain damage by going way above 72 frames. Now, granted, it takes a lot more frames to do that, but you can cause damage to your eyes at least going above that. So, I mean, you really can't use frames as a difference maker. You can't use pixels nowadays as a frame difference. I mean, fuck, if we were playing online games, but we're back between 16 and 32-bit era, that makes a little bit of a difference because of the hardware limitations. 16-bit versus 32, you're gonna have a lot more hardware difference. But between a PS3 and a PS4, it's uh, what? It's a octa-core processor versus a quad-core processor. It's essentially a 560 G, 560 an Nvidia 560 versus an Nvidia 980. That's not much of a graphical change because I'm in the halfway point in that and I still work fine. And it's 6 gigs versus 8 gigs of RAM. It's not much of a difference, and it's the stupidest excuse I've ever heard. So,
if I remember right, which I gotta double check real quick. You PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U all use virtually the exact same
like, they're
processors,
all their hardware is almost 100% the same. I think
which is
PS4.
ironic. And
I
it's
think the
funny because
PlayStation's
they have
running a
the same
higher. Yeah, I think the PlayStation's running a higher, or their processor's running hotter than the Xbox One, but the Xbox One's using more of the memory. I think that's where those differences are. So the Xbox One's running smoother because of how much memory it's using, where the PlayStation's running faster because the processor's beefed up a little bit, but it's not much. Like there's a very small difference. You have to be running both at the same time to see any kind of difference. I mean, their load times are almost the same
graphics.
because they're both
So
using
let's see.
the
RAM.
yeah.
Running.
Or sorry, either Xbox is using less RAM or something. It's so minute and so fucking funny.
See, they have the same exact amount. They have the same exact amount of RAM, except the PlayStation, instead of running DDR3, is running GDDR5.
Oh, that's right.
The do do do. They're both running 8 cores, which is hard to compare because the PlayStation is using an AMD Jaguar, while the Xbox One is using a custom 8 core processor. So it's not like it's running an Intel or an AMD, blah blah
So
blah.
yeah, no,
It's
so
custom.
I had them flipped around. That's right.
But as far as the GPU power goes, it looks like the PlayStation's is better, but for some reason that doesn't matter much because fucking game developers make it the same for each system, which I guess as far as saving money that makes sense. If you're gonna make them run 60
It
FPS, same
it
graphics.
yeah, it saves development time in that sense because it's easier to develop for the same graphical level than it is to change graphical levels. I mean, we've seen it in other games where they did do things like that and they fuck up on something and it makes the game worse on one console than it does the other. And hell, I mean, I remember there was a game on Xbox and it looked better than the one on Xbox 360, but it looked better on the 360 but than it did on the PS3 because they said that they couldn't develop for the PS3 correctly. I mean, granted, the PS3 was like one of the hardest systems to develop for, but it was using a better graphical engine that you they could have developed still and as the 360 and just port it over and just change certain things controller wise to make it work correctly. It would have worked fine and you wouldn't have lost
Does
anything,
the
but
PlayStation 4 allow 4 or 8 controllers?
um you know what? I have not tried.
Because
I
I always
do
thought that was
too.
weird
I
because
think it can do 4 easily.
very few people actually know that he even exists because there's not many games that take advantage. But there is an indie game on the Xbox where you can play with 8 people on the same console because you can connect 8 controllers. But
See,
like,
I know the
what
PS
does that?
I know the PS3 could connect 8 controllers. So I wouldn't see why the PS4 couldn't do it. It'd just be really weird. Though I don't know if it can. I haven't tried. I don't have 8
I don't have
controllers
enough
to
time.
try.
I have very few people, nor do I have a game that is 8 person compatible.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't think anyone really does. But wow, talk about getting derailed on that. We started on one thing, completely derailed.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, the PS3 can use up to 8 controllers. I've checked it out. You can actually assign up to 8 controllers for the PS3. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I found that out when I was playing around with my controllers one day, way back. I was like, do, and I'm like, okay, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it went to 5. I'm like, what the fuck? And it went to 6, and went to 7, and went to 8. I'm like, what the fuck? This is awesome. And then I stopped and I'm like, wait, what game takes 8 players? The only
Yeah,
other game I can think of that would have done, well, the only game that did it at the time when I knew about that was the Madden football games.
see, same screen, split screen would be horrible
Oh my
unless you're
god, I
big
would
enough
hate
for a
that.
computer. If you got a projector screen, maybe, but split screen on a regular, even a 60-inch TV, just no. I mean, even then, that's kind of ironic because back in the old days, we played Mario Kart 4-player on tiny ass TVs, but
On good old CRTVs.
nowadays it's just too much detail for one small screen.
No, no, no. My favorite has always still been playing on the 64, playing Golden Eye, and you're playing on a 32-inch TV, and you're telling everyone not to screen look, and you're like, really? We all can see the screen 100% the same. How do you not screen look? No screen looking.
Have you ever seen a game that's so low quality that it looks bad because it's so bad on such a large, high quality screen?
Final Fantasy VIII when I started it up on my PS3. The
Like
game.
it's so good, it's bad you can't see it. Like you want an old TV to play it on.
I know. Well, no, I played Final Fantasy VIII on my my 40-inch TV over here, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't look at this game. It looks so horrible." Like I could barely tell where I was because of how blocky it was and how bad it looked. I'm like, "Oh my god." When you T-punch them. So I mean, I switched over to my PS Vita and it looks better because it's a smaller screen. It's condensed. It's not being stretched out so much. So it's like, okay, this works. But yeah, certain old games like there's the Fruit Loops, or yeah, Fruit Loops commercial, or the Fruity Loops commercial where the parents sit there and their kids go to bed and they start eating cereal and they play original Mario on a flat screen TV and it looks like, the Mario I grew up with. I'm like, yeah, that's not how that works. That does not look that way. Anyone that owns an HD TV that plays an old game like that, that's not how that looks. That looks horrible. So, now that we got officially derailed there, one last
Catching up
little
on the end, anyways.
yeah, one last little thing that we were going to cover. Final Fantasy 14's update is coming November 10th. This is patch 3.1. I mentioned this a few times. So this one's going to be bringing in a new exploration map, where you and your free company, or you and 7 other random players, can go explore a map that's only accessible through an airship. And on these areas, you can find rare materials for gatherers. They can go gathering. There's high end mobs that you can deal with, but for the people that aren't part of a free company, you can only do easy and normal. Hard mode is only reserved for free company airships. So you have to have at least 2 members of a free company start up a party and send out on their airship. And the maps can hold 72 people each. And these like class 10 mobs that they said, they showed a class 5. We don't know how high it goes, but they're like, yeah, the class 5 ones actually are supposed to take a lot more time. But they showed the trailer and they take a cleave, don't take any damage, and kill in 2 hits. You're like, that's not really showing us very well. We know you got God mode on, but whatever. Um, they're also adding in a new mini game called Lords of Verminion. And yes, you heard that right. It's not Vermilion, it's Verminion.
Uh,
Where you get to Pokemon Master again. I don't know why every company does this, but this one, instead of battling, 1v1 minion versus minion, you get to create an army of minions, and it's an RTS. It's a live action RTS. And it looks hilarious. Also, we're getting 2 new dungeons, a hard mode of an older dungeon. One of the things that we're all wondering is, are they going to remove the 2 expert dungeons out of the expert roulette, or are they just going to add these 2 in and then have 4 expert dungeons, which would be nice. So I don't have to see the same 2 fucking dungeons over and over and over and over again.
but I feel like playing Strikes on Destiny.
Yeah, seriously. And of course, they state that we are going to be getting the next relic weapon for the game, but it won't be till halfway through the patch 3.15, which is kind of cool. But I'm kind of rushing through this part because kind of need to rush through it, just slightly. Also, they talked a little bit about 3.2, letting us know that they're changing crafted gear and materia changes coming for people who do play 14. So look forward to those. That may fuck some people over, may help people out. We will see when that day comes. But other than that, that's pretty much all we have for updates and betas for this week.
Jeez, that's it. Only an hour and a half. You're horrible.
I know if Lois was in here, she's like, no, it should be like 6 hours long.
You're funny.
Sorry, I'm not gonna bring that late in the night. Anyways, the new generation will never know the feeling of your life's dwindling as a static radiation can. Yeah, no one will. The new generation will not know that. No, they'll just get their brains rotted out by the higher amounts of radiation coming from HD TVs. Because that's how that goes. It's a shocking experience. Oh, jeez. So, we have a few more things we're going to talk about before we head off for the night. I'm just putting this out. Reminder, on November 7th is the Extra Life charity campaign, and I will be running through that. 24 hours of gaming. So come by the channel, donate to Extra Life, help save some kids' lives. Yeah, because I'm the crazy bastard that doesn't have a team and is doing it all solo. We are trying to raise $500 this year. My goal was $250 last year. We barely made it. So I figured I'm just going to go for $500. Fuck it. Might as well go big or go home. I'm not like some of the other people that are doing like $10,000 goals and everything. So,
Yeah.
but we do have a $500 donation goal this year. 24 hours. Swing by whenever you can. Come by, hang out, chill out, say hi, donate to the charity. Help save some kids' lives. All charity, all the proceeds go to the respective hospitals of the streamer. Mine is for here in Colorado, so I have not done that. We might do that one of these days soon. What do you think, Daku? Custom build computers? I mean, I spent $1,500 on mine. I'm not gonna lie. Mine was not was pretty expensive. And I'm now going, God, I need to upgrade it and put more
I feel
shit
like
in there.
if I gave information on how to build a gaming PC, people would be mad at me and go, "No, that's not right. That's bad."
The hardest part about something like that is it's all opinion based. That's the hardest part. But you can always talk about price range, what are the best options at price ranges for certain things. So we might do something like that. We'll have to converse between each other and figure that one out. So to finish up this episode this week, quick little thing. We are still working on, well, I'm still working on trying to find us a third member of this podcast, since Kamari did leave us not too long ago, unfortunately, because he's got an internship and is working. So we don't have our token black guy. Yeah, I know. How dare he? Yeah, but we don't have our token black guy anymore, so I am going to be looking again for someone else to replace him.
Are you looking for another black guy though?
Possibly.
Gotta keep it even. We got an Asian, a white kid. We need a black guy.
Yeah, we need a black guy. We need a dark skinned fella. Also, our future episodes. Yeah, we can't lose the token black guy. Future episodes that we are coming up with. Tax breaks. Oh Jesus. God, now we sound horrible about that. So future episodes we are going to be doing here soon. Two big games coming out on the 10th. Now, granted, I won't be doing a podcast after that because I will be moving. Token brown guy, that could work.
You have fun with that.
But we will not be doing a podcast after because I'm going to be moving. I'm going to have to clean, and I'm going to be moving north up to Denver for a while.
Jeez.
Yep. But the podcast after that move, we will be talking about 3 kind of big games. Actually, 4 in my book, but 3 kind of big games. Black Ops 3, because that comes out Tuesday. Fallout 4 officially releases November 10th, the same day as 3.1. God damn it. Though I'm not a big Fallout 4 fan, so
I've been
get
playing
get get your
the shelter,
get
so
get your pitchforks and torches. I'm not a Fallout fan. Oh well. Been nice knowing you. I'm gonna be burning at the stake here soon. The
I might
other,
do Vegas for like an hour and
yeah.
then I quit playing.
Then the one that I'm actually really excited about, we got Legacy of the Void that also comes out that same fucking day.
I can't wait to finish that damn game.
I know.
You have to buy it for me because I don't have the money for it.
And then of course,
I can play that game with you. I just
yeah,
thought about that.
yeah, you could. Um, and of course, the other game that will be coming out is called Yokai Watch, which is it's a Pokemon ripoff game, but it's for the DS. It's licensed by Nintendo. It looks interesting, and it's one of the games I'm actually more interested in wanting to play, but I don't have a DS, so kind of can't play that. Also, I'm going to be doing a special uh, broadcast. I am going to see if I can get a couple of other people. I don't know if Daku will want to join me, but that's because it's Final Fantasy based. But I am going to be doing a Goodbye Final Fantasy 11 podcast here soon. 3.1 comes out November 10th. Final Fantasy 11's last content patch comes out November 11th. That's right. Final Fantasy 11 is officially getting its last content patch, so I am going to do a farewell podcast for that soon. I'm going to actually reach out to a couple of other streamers that I know and see if we can do this podcast. It'd be really awesome if we could, and I could kind of have fun with it. It'd be great. Also, oh yeah, the other game that's coming out in November, and we're going to be doing this podcast as well. We are having a Star Wars podcast right after Star Wars Battlefront goes live and comes out, and right before Episode 7 gets released. So look forward to that one.
I can't go that high pitched.
Yeah, so that's going to be another really exciting one for people to come swing by and check out. I'm hopefully going to have the game. So while, Daku and I, and if we have the third co-host by then, while we are talking about that, I am going to be playing in the background so everyone can watch me die like a little son of a bitch.
Wait to be corrected angrily on all my Star Wars lore.
I actually...
how a lightsaber works.
I actually kind of want to see if Kamari wants to come back for that one specifically, because that'd be awesome, because he's a huge Star Wars junkie like I am. Also, we have a Xenoblade Chronicles X one that is planned, because Xenoblade Chronicles X is going to be coming out in December. Also, look forward to that one, because if you have a Wii U, I am going to be giving away copies of Xenoblade Chronicles X.
You should just give me a Wii U.
That's cheaper. It is. It's cheaper than an Xbox One and a PS4. But please, if you have a Wii U, if you know someone that's got a Wii U that is kind of excited for the game but can't afford it, please come by that day for the stream. I will be playing it the day it is released, and I will be playing it for who knows how long, because that game is going to be so awesome, and I'm so hyped for that game.
Promise?
I promise. Actually, the funny part is I love Xenogears. This is all part of the same universe, but I hated the Blade games on the PS2. I just did not, or Xenosaga on the PS2. I did not like those. But Xenoblade on the Wii, oh my god, I love the game. So, those are some of the stuff coming up here soon, so please look forward to all that hype. We've got quite a bit planned, and I'm hoping to have some guests on for some of those and see if we can get some pretty cool people coming on. especially Kitsuragi. Yeah, but hopefully we'll get some people. Anyways, guys, that is it for us tonight. Thank you all for coming by, and of course, as always, I am your host, Chase Kitsuragi Tuback, and of course, to the left of me, Richard Dr. Cox. Thank you, sir, for joining me on another great podcast, and thank you all for participating, coming by. Anyways, till next time. Anyways, wow. Anyways, till next time, guys, take care, and I'll see you in the stream.
Love, peace, and chicken grease.